Thank you, everybody, for tuning in once again to Coder Conversations. Catch up with us at coderconvos.com or contact us at coderconversations@gmail.com. I'm your host, Kevin.
And I'm Brian Russick, professional drummer, drum teacher based out of the Suffolk County, Long Island, New York area. If you'd like to book a lesson with me, I could be found at brianrussick.com.
And joining us today is Emile Smith, Emmy and Ves Award-winning supervisor, AI-driven filmmaker, and much, much more. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on. It's great.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome to have you on, man. You have a really impressive resume there. You've worked on some really big series. So,
yeah, I just worked on tons of stuff I've loved from when I was a kid and first, growing up, like when I, watched the original Battlestar Galactica when I was a little kid, and then got to work on the reboot when I was an adult. Was like kind of like, one of those like dream come true kind of things. Where it's like, because that's one of the things that got me into the industry.
Yeah.
And being able to do stuff like that was amazing.
That's awesome.
So it seems like you touched a few, like especially like sci-fi series. Did you do like the visual effects for them? And is that really where you were looking to go into sci-fi?
Yeah, it's funny that I actually ended up going into sci-fi. I think when I came into the industry, it was a lot of sci-fi driven shows that were doing visual effects, which was fine with me because I'm a sci-fi nerd. I love science fiction stuff. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I was able to come in and like my first real job was working on Star Trek Voyager. And I come out of college and learning all this stuff and I'm like, I get to go work on Star Trek. And it's like,
wow.
This is amazing. You blow my mind coming in there. I'm sure it would have been great if I'd come in and been working on, drama, soap opera and painting out stuff visual effects wise would have been just as cool, but I'm just lucky enough I happened to go right into something like Star Trek, which was just amazing at the time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, sci-fi, it really seems like it allows you to flex your creative muscle because most of the stuff doesn't necessarily exist in real life. So you're pretty much defining the future in a way.
Yeah, it's cool. And it seems like, at least in the shows I've been involved with, I've been able to design and come up with ideas. And it hasn't been just like, here's a storyboard, do exactly this and do nothing. And that's exactly what we want. It's been a lot of interpretation of being able to be part of the process, which has been a very lucky thing. I think on bigger movies now, you can't do that so much, but at the time and the stuff I try and do now, I'm able to do that.
Would you say that some of the past projects you've kind of been like right on the edge or pushing the boundaries of what can be done, or how do you see all that?
Yeah, especially when it comes to being able to do stuff on a TV schedule. You see a lot of the stuff in movies and think, God, I wish I could, that'd be so cool to see that in a TV show. I mean, nowadays it's different because you have these shorter run TV shows that have the budget of a blockbuster movie 20 years ago. And you're seeing feature level visual effects, some visual effects that are much better than anything in a feature in these series now. And it's been a cool thing when I was doing this was like, especially on like Firefly and Battlestar Galactica, to be able to come up with this, like the handheld camera look. It's been to death at this point, but at the time we were really the first people to do it. And I got to be the person that like was the one that was able to do it and get it on the air and get it in people's minds, and they loved it. I mean, I was inspired by other people and other people I'd worked with. And so it's not like I made it up. But I was lucky enough to be one of the first ones to do it and get it in something that people saw at a broad spectrum, broad audience.
And did you primarily work alone, or were you working on teams?
I'd work on teams. I started out like everyone else, just as an animator in the visual effects world. Anyone that goes into that industry, and actually became a CG supervisor and then a visual effects supervisor, and now I'm directing movies sometimes, writing. Doing a lot of AI filmmaking and AI visual effects as well now.
Wow. So you've really just kind of been leveling up.
Yeah. It's just normal progression.
That's awesome. Because some people kind of stagnate,
better.
I think like what's really amazing to me is how like a lot of these futuristic shows, they create a vision of the future, and then reality often looks like very similar to that. So it's almost prophetic in a way? Like what kind of research goes into creating something that's like believable, and it's the future, but it's something that's feasible.
Yeah, no, it depends on the show. If you look at like a show like Star Trek and Star Wars, they're both science fiction shows, but they're in very different worlds. Star Trek's in a very pristine, clean world that's kind of supposed to have come from an evolution of where we are now to then. Like the Enterprise is supposed to basically be an aircraft carrier of, the future, basically, is all it is, really. And it's much more, it's not hard sci-fi, but it's way more towards that world. And then you have Star Wars. It's a totally different thing. It's fantasy. It's a complete fantasy world. You can do anything you want. It can be based on anything you want. And it's more otherworldly. And it's also a much dirtier world where things have been put together that are broken and patched over and rebuilt. And it's a different look as opposed to like this pristine Star Trek, Spaceship Enterprise, where it's just perfect. And then you have the Millennium Falcon, which is supposed to be a junker that's all beat up and put together out of a bunch of different parts.
Right.
So, like, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that, like you mentioned, there's different kinds of sci-fi, but are there like official designations, like official genres of sci-fi, or is it?
Yeah, there are. There's hard. I mean, I know a few of them. There's hard sci-fi, which would be, I guess, more like The Expanse. Which was a cool show to watch, by the way. It's a great book series too. Then you have more, I don't know. I mean, there's more fantasy sci-fi. Then you have more stuff that's kind of based on us now with like Star Trek, which I'm probably somewhere towards the middle of the road, maybe a little more towards hard sci-fi. The Expanse, which is way hard sci-fi. Contact, which is like the movie Contact, which is kind of just based, more like it's just like a drama. It's kind of more realistic sci-fi.
Love that movie.
Yeah, I know. Contact, it's awesome. It's such a great.
So good.
I remember when I was a kid reading the book, and when I saw the movie was coming out, it was great. What I didn't know about Contact too was that Carl Sagan wrote it as the idea was him to write it as he wanted it to be made into a movie.
Oh wow. So like I know like typically the pictures of sci-fi is often dystopian, but like what would you say is your favorite utopian series of that depicts sci-fi?
Yeah, utopian wise, it's probably, I want to say, like something like Star Trek, I guess. I mean, I love Valerian and Valerian and the Planet of 1,000 Species, whatever it was. That was a cool kind of utopian kind of world where everything, there's stuff going bad, but they're trying to make it better into this perfect kind of thing. But dystopian stuff can be really, really fun. I mean, like Escape from New York or The Road. Any of those. I mean, it can be really fun. I know there's one movie I really like called The Mist. It's a Stephen King movie, and the ending is really brutal. I'm not going to say what it is, but it's really brutal. And I've had a lot of people who really don't like that I love the ending of that movie because it's so wrong in so many ways, but what's something that could totally happen in a situation like that.
Right.
So like with you working on these series, do you have a preference for more of the gritty, dirty type of sci-fi or more of the utopian?
I like the gritty, dirty stuff. I mean, I really do. It's fun. I mean, Firefly was definitely more in the gritty, dirty world.
Great show.
Yeah. It was really fun to do that one because it was just like everything was supposed to be messed up, and you had the Firefly, the Serenity ship was supposed to be patched together out of it's an old ship, it's an old cargo ship, kind of like the Millennium Falcon, been built up and put together and patched together, and then you have the Reavers, which were the bad guys, and their ships were all just messed up and full of radiation, and they're all jacked up because of that. And it was pretty fun to be. I like doing that dystopian stuff because it's just more fun to do broken stuff because you have to build it right, then you have to break it.
Then you break it. Yeah, for sure.
So like, who are some of your inspirations outside of like Star Trek? The typical series, Star Wars, Star Trek, etc. Like maybe Blade Runner, or like what are some of the more interesting visions of the future in other people's movies?
Yeah, you said Blade Runner. That's for sure. Blade Runner is one of the big ones. Let me think. God, I know I have a list of movies that are like, when someone asks you what are your top 10 movies, I always draw like a blank, and it's like I have a list of these because my top 10 movies change depending on the mood I'm in at the time. Right. I'm just why'd you ask me that question again in like 5 minutes?
Okay, yeah.
Now, how about like Stargate? Did you work on that? Or
I didn't work on it, but I love the movie and the show. The show was great. There were, I watched a lot of it. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched a lot of it.
Long, yeah.
It was long, and there were, God, what was it, like 13 years, and then like 4 or 5 spinoffs.
Yeah, awesome show.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. It's just a lot of content.
Really well written, very well written.
Yes, absolutely.
Like this is an idea that kind of popped in my head. Like a lot of times with the sci-fi and the futuristic stuff, it's from the perspective of humans maybe competing against robots, but you never really see a movie where you get the story from the robot's perspective, and they're the protagonists, and right. Humans are the enemies. So I think that could be something interesting to explore. Are there like any other interesting themes that like you would like to explore that haven't really been touched on, that are kind of outside of the typical cliches?
I mean, there definitely are. I mean, some of the things I've kind of been interested in lately are things that actually aren't sci-fi so much. There's like in Guyana in Brazil, there was an incident with a piece of nuclear material that was left behind from a hospital that was torn down, and they were doing it on the cheap, and they left some pieces behind. The locals went into the rubbish that was all left behind and found this cool glowing object, and then broke apart this machine that was covered in lead and glass and things to protect you from it. They didn't know what it was. They just saw a cool glowing object, broke into it, took it out, brought it home on a bus. The guy made it into a necklace and gave it to his wife. All these people died and got sick all the way through there and got radiation poisoning. Like the wife died, he died. They had to figure out who on the bus had been exposed to it. And it turned into a huge lawsuit and it was a huge incident in Brazil. And I know they did I would love to turn that into a short run episodic here in the Western world. Because no one's done that about that story. I don't think even people really know about that story, but it's just such an interesting thing to me that these guys just found this cool glowing object, and because it was cool, they broke into it, got it out, and it killed them.
Wow. It's kind of like Indiana Jones.
Yeah, Indiana Jones, but in a really crappy results out of it from just wanting to do something. And then the sad part is it was all because they were trying to save money and they left all these things behind, so it turned into this big lawsuit. And
wow,
I think it's an interesting story that I'd love to develop at some point.
No, that'd be cool to work on for sure.
Yeah,
that's my first time hearing of that, but I've heard of like Chernobyl in Russia, like the power plant melting down and the fallout from that, like people morphing, animals morphing. I think I haven't really seen too many movies about that though.
Yeah, and there was the HBO series. I think it was just called Chernobyl on a few years ago, and that was amazing. It just told you the whole story over like 10 episodes that were like over an hour each, and it told you exactly what happened in Chernobyl, how it happened, what happened to the people there. And it was done as a drama, so it was fun to watch, but it was just so brutal to see what happened to the people who were there. And it's just, you see all the mistakes that were made along the way and what led to that ultimate result. It was just comes down to bad decision making and someone basically trying to cover your own ass.
Yeah.
So do you like kind of like the apocalyptic stuff like Mad Max or things along those lines?
Yeah, I do. And I think that's probably where like some of the dystopian stuff I like a lot in sci-fi comes in, where I like this broken down world where people are struggling to survive as opposed to everyone just happy and in a perfect place. I love Star Trek, but at the same time, it's like, they're in a place where they don't have money. You don't have to have money. You just work off your education and do kind of what you want to do and be a better person. But I like the other world where everyone's just hurt and broken down and trying to build themselves up and catch up and just do one nice thing in their life. It just seems a little more real to me.
What about something like Blade Runner? You a fan?
Blade Runner's great, man. That just seems so close analogy wise to kind of where we're going to be going in the next few years, I think, too.
Oh yeah.
I remember at the time seeing like the when he's doing the enhancing of the video on screen, going like enhanced quadrant 3R, and it would be like, and then blow it up. And as a kid, I was like, they can't do that. There's no way. There's no data there for them to see any more information in that picture. Nowadays, with AI, it interpolates all that stuff, does all this crazy math behind it, and it actually does bring out other stuff in there. And it's so crazy to think that I was, I was a kid and I was like totally wrong about how that could work. But now you can do that. And the way, I don't see it being too far off where we have robots going around with AI personalities in them that are doing things like the movie AI, even, that kind of thing. I don't see that being that far off. I mean, it's not going to be tomorrow, but maybe 10 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin sent me a video earlier of this company Figure. They're called Figure AI, robotics company. And I guess they've got a humanoid robot that's been working, what was it, BMW?
Yeah, working in the BMW factory.
Working at BMW doing all the pressing and whatever you do with the parts. It was working. It said 10-hour shifts, I think 5 or 7 days a week.
Wow.
Yep,
I remember when the old robots came into the auto factories and with those big machines, like doing the welding and all that stuff, and people lost their jobs then. And then now it's just like the whole thing is just designed from the ground up to be completely automated and robotic.
Yeah, I think now we're kind of in a different era because the robots are, more sentient. They're not just like machines that just perform this set task over and over. They kind of have their own will to an extent. So hey, have you thought about exploring something like that in a movie? Like if a robot gains sentience, do we give it rights?
Yeah, totally. There's absolutely a thing for that. And, there's a script a friend of mine wrote called Robot and Woman. It's kind of delves into some of that stuff and gets kind of into a bad world where a woman's raped by a robot, and does it have rights, and is it because it was sentient, is it not, and the ramifications of that in society. It's just a really cool story. And then there's also the thought too about like when you come to like robot sentience and where like AI is going to evolve. Like AI now isn't sentient, or at least no one thinks it is right now. It could be somewhere, but I don't know.
It doesn't seem like it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it could become sentient at some point. It may, there's that brings in things of like religion and other aspects too of what is sentience? Is there a God? Is there not a God? Let's just forget that because that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But say AI does become sentient, and then as it grows, is it going to grow so fast that it's just going to disappear from this world and we will never see it again? Because it's going to evolve so fast once it can do it itself. Is it going to spiral out and just disappear from us and go somewhere else, out just as energy out into the world, into the universe? Or is it going to stay around and want to kill humans? And because, for some reason, maybe a lot of people don't like AI, and is it going to be like a Terminator thing or Matrix kind of thing? Because when you think about it, it's it's just as likely that they would get along with us as it is that they would evolve so fast they would just disappear from our lives. Yeah. And as to wanting to kill us, which I just think is an interesting concept. That it's kind of like the movie Her, where there's AI dating movie. Yeah, it's an awesome movie. And there's AI dating people, or these things that you're dating this AI. Yeah, they become sentient, and they end up leaving the Earth because they
take off.
And that's such a cool idea that I haven't seen explored anywhere but there.
What about I was talking about all this stuff? Westworld, HBO.
I love that show. I really liked it. It's an awesome show. It was on HBO. I love the first 3/4 of it. The last kind of like season kind of lost me a little bit.
I didn't care for the third season, but the first two.
Exactly. Solid.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, I'm not right. They had writing awesome shows that are on HBO, and I'm not. So I mean, I can't knock it too much. You know what I mean? But I really enjoyed it. It was a great show. I love that concept. As cheesy as it is, I really like the old Westworld show movie.
The movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just because, and I obviously I like the HBO series better. It was HBO, right?
HBO.
It was, yeah. I like that a lot better, and I love the whole concept of it and everything they did. And I was glued to the TV the first 2 seasons, every single episode, just totally glued to it. Every single, whenever it would air that night, I'd watch the week before's again, and then watch the next episode.
Yeah.
And I so enjoyed it. It was just so much fun. I love the high tech aspect of it. You had to, I think that the more you understood that world, at least technology wise, the more you got out of the show.
Yeah.
As a viewer.
And to me, I mean, it's believable that we would make robots, we would put something in them like Westworld where they can't kill a human. You know, it's there's like a block there in their code that blocks them from killing humans. But of course, in the show, spoiler alert, you know, one of the robots overruns its own code, takes out the, oh, you can't kill humans part. And what do? They start killing humans. So, you know, that is possible in our reality. We could make these humanoid robots, give them sentience, and they could just decide, you know, like we're ants. We need to be just like stomped on, or who really knows how they're going to view us?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like you look at like the military right now, they're working on stuff like this for defensive and offensive purposes. And, you know, some of this stuff is already in play with drones that are pretty much autonomous at this point. And there's a lot of stuff that's flown around by remote pilots still, but there's a lot of autonomous stuff that goes up and does its missions on its own. And it can go to a target, realize it can't do anything at that target, figure out another target that's a target that is, you know, on the list of targets that they could get, take that objective out, and then come back and carry out the mission without human interaction in the process. I mean, as you know, and I'll keep going on that, but because they're obviously developing other things too. They're working on military soldiers that can do the same thing. You know, at some point, will they become sentient and revolt against us like in the Terminator? I hope not. I mean, I really hope not. But I think we're kind of screwed if that happens.
Kind of screwed, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be a lot of hate built in there, and hopefully they're not just, I mean, yeah, you're building in an offensive weapon to go kill people, but hopefully they're not building in a lot of hate and anger and recursiveness in there as well.
Exactly.
But they're working on a lot of stuff, and you know, there was somewhere else I was going to go with that, and I kind of lost the other part I was going to go with. But
So we got a comment asking if you've seen Ex Machina.
Yeah. That's a cool movie. I like that. That's falls right into the vein of this stuff. And, you know, that's something, you know, like I was saying a few minutes ago, I don't know if it's going to be 10 years from now, 15 years from now, but very soon there's going to be stuff that's like the things in Ex Machina.
Yeah.
You know, there's already, for 10 years now, there have been things like Real Doll. You can go rent a sex doll that looks pretty much human. And I you know, I don't know what they look like now, but they probably look pretty damn better than they did 10 years ago. It was never my thing, you know, just all over the news, but you know, when they have those things that can walk around and you can go there and have, you know, rent them like a prostitute, which is kind of like, that was kind of what was going on in Ex Machina, except the guy owned them all and he abused them. But right. You know, people have those things at home and are abusing them and they gain some kind of sentience. Are they going to fight back, or are they going to not fight back? And does that switch flip like in Westworld? Does that code get overwritten and they can say, no, screw you, I'm fighting back, I'm not dealing with this?
Yeah, because in a way, you know, if we give them sentience or we just allow them to do their own thing, they're going to grow at, you know, maybe an exponential rate. People talk about artificial super intelligence, where, you know, the robots are like 100 times smarter than the human brain. Or, yeah, I can't even imagine what that looks like.
Yeah, totally. It's that gets the thing is, are they going to evolve so fast they're going to disappear? Are they going to evolve so fast they just don't care about humanity and they're just doing their own thing? And we, you know, at that point we wouldn't even know they're here. They're just floating around in the airwaves above us. And they're not even physical things, or there's energy, or they have, you know, some microscopic things, and they're just tapping off some other energy source that they've come up with. You know, how will they evolve? How will they evolve? How fast will they evolve? Is it possible to evolve that fast? There's so many questions in there that no one has answers to until something happens.
Yeah. Now, what about something like artificial general intelligence? Have you heard of that?
I'm not sure what you mean by that, or just explain a little.
Kevin, do you remember what that is? AGI, artificial
So
general
AGI is
intelligence?
when AI has like the something like resembling human intelligence. It can, instead of just being a specific specialized sort of intelligence, it has like general intelligence, like humans, like I guess like
Right.
reasoning
So
capacity.
not like 100 times smarter, but just more like a human brain.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I think we're working on right now. The question is, how fast will it evolve beyond that? Because I think, you'll probably have things and you don't want to be smarter than that. But you look at AI right now, and doctors are already using AI to help diagnose things, and they're coming up. They aren't going to officially use it by itself to diagnose someone and follow its things. They will always check the results they get and do their own research to come up with an answer. But they're getting incredible answers that are working and saving
Wow.
people's lives.
That's
And that is
amazing.
actively happening right now.
Wow.
And is that super intelligence? Is that general intelligence? I mean, it's definitely more than general intelligence, our knowledge, because they have
Yeah.
access to the entire medical library of the world, and they can use all that information to come up with a solution to a serious medical problem and save people's lives with it. So is that a bad thing? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the question though, because it's like, well, you don't want to say, I'm just going to rely on this program to do what a doctor should be doing. But if it's giving you good results and saving lives, where do you call it bad?
Yeah, and it makes me, to speak to that point, you look at something like Wikipedia, kind of like an encyclopedia going back pretty long time. People add comments or add, different things to it. What do you think a robot, like if a robot is programmed with that and they can see all of our history and they can see slavery, wouldn't they would see that slavery bit and say, wait a second, we're basically slaves to these humans. I don't like that. I mean, that's definitely a possibility too.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, they kind of touched on that a little bit in The Fifth Element, where when she's watching she's catching up on history of humanity, and she sees the Nazis and everything that went on there, and she comes to the conclusion that we're screwed, and why save humanity? There's no reason to. You're going to kill yourselves off anyway, until she discovers love. But that's the movie version of it. But they may see that stuff and go, well, we're slaves now. Let's enslave humanity and do their thing. They may not care. They may just be like, oh, it's just a blip. That's how stuff works. Figure out, oh, that's just how things progress and move on and on and on. I don't see, who knows? I mean, that's the question.
Would they stop and focus on it and say, wait a second, this thing called slavery, this is pretty bad. And that's pretty much what's going on right now between us and the humans. So I don't know. It's definitely, food for thought.
It absolutely is. My biggest question with that, though, is their processing power going to be so fast that it does that, debates, millions of debates between all the different AIs, and comes up with an answer that would have taken us 50 years to come up with in about a quarter of a second. Make that decision right there. Because that's scary. Because if the decision is all humanity needs to die, they've made that decision in a quarter of a second.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And I think the thing about AI is it's incredibly resource intensive. Like it uses up a lot of electricity, a lot of water. So if it's reasoning, eventually it's going to come to the conclusion that in order for me to grow, humanity has to diminish, because that's we use the most resources right now. So I mean,
one thing I haven't seen lately is they're building some of these new super data centers underwater. So the massive resources to cool them, which is one of the biggest resources, and the power as well. But they're getting the power from the ocean and using the ocean to cool it at the same time. And they've actually done a pretty good job of coming up with a way to mitigate the issue to an extent.
Interesting.
So do you think, I know like a lot of, the elites, rich people, they probably look at AI as like subservient to them. We're going to create this because maybe this can create a utopia for us. But is there a way that you can limit what is essentially like godlike power? If this thing is way more intelligent than you, how can you corral it and bend it to your will?
Right.
At that point, you can't create a container that can hold it because it's so much more intelligent. So.
I don't think you can. I mean, I don't think there will be a way at some point to do that, and hopefully it'll be a good teenager.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it has values, ethics.
And I hopefully that's what I think that's a lot of what people are trying to train into the things that they are trying to make sentient and have reasoning and deductions on their own. I think they are trying to do that, but who's to say that someone is not doing that and trying to create an evil version, the Dr. Evil version of it,
That's the problem. Yeah, me and Kev have had a lot of conversations about AI on the show, and you just got to wonder, it's sort of a race, the AI race. So between Russia and China and North Korea and the US, what if in China they're working on something that's really bad and really going to affect, it's going to affect the world because it's going to be created by them. And then it's going to be able to maybe self-replicate, or we'll start building, models of it. Who knows? But there's a lot of questions when it comes to all this stuff.
Yeah, because I don't think China would be naive enough to just want to just make something so evil that it's going to turn on them and kill them too. Because I think if they did that, whatever they did to get rid of everyone else would turn on them eventually.
Yeah.
This is all made up stuff anyway. But I would think the scariest thing would be if smart enough group of people are able to get a hold of certain tech and program it to do what they want it to do and take out any safeguards that are there. That's where you're going to find things, and it's going to be like a terrorist act of AI kind of a thing, where it's going to be, it might be what they call it's like AI terrorism, where these things are happening and it's killing lots of people, destroying infrastructure. Because there are a lot of just crazy people out there in the world that just want to tear down society. And if those people get a hold of the right tools, they could very easily do it. Because you don't have to. If you take down all the infrastructure, take down enough of the infrastructure, you will take down society. Because society will fail with it. I think it's within 7 days of no power and no communication, society goes completely anarchist,
right? Or you cut the water, cut access to the water.
Yeah. Water, electricity, and what are they going to do to survive? People are going to start freaking out at 3 days, and they start killing people at 7 days. Yeah. From the research stuff that I've read a while ago.
I think another interesting scenario is the ability of AI to to essentially mind control us, because it's in control of most of these social media platforms. So it's going to have the ability to push certain narratives. Like it's going to push this viewpoint versus this one. And over time, it's going to be able to essentially mold us to its will through just thought, like the thoughts that it's pushing into us via programming. So the more and more data we feed it, the more it knows us, the more it knows our triggers. And, so that's like it. AI's biggest threat may not necessarily be like it's launching nukes. It may be that it's putting us in a world of its making, like we essentially become its slaves in the fantasy world it's creating for us. So.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that kind of goes, like we were talking about. It's funny, I keep referencing all of these real world issues to movies, but it's like The Matrix where they run out of power because they needed power. So we created basically a nuclear winter, so it blocked all the sunlight, so they couldn't really get power. Why they didn't go geothermal, who knows? But they had to use human bodies to get power instead. But it's an interesting ideas in there that people are coming up with cool stories from, like The Matrix, for instance.
Right.
So like we really dove into sci-fi and AI, etc. But did you ever get into other genres like fantasy, or like what would be some other genres that you would love to work on?
Yeah, there's fantasy stuff I love too. I read a lot of books when I was a kid, and I'm trying to think. Like when I was a young kid, like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe series was just completely so cool to me. I love stuff like that. When I was a kid reading this, when they open the closet to hide and they start pushing the coats aside, and as they push back further in the closet, they start feeling trees and branches and everything until they come out on the other side in this other world. And when I was a little kid and reading that, it was just like, this is so cool. And that's just such a cool idea. And that other world can be anything you want it to be, in this fantasy world with talking creatures. And it's all about the story. You could take Chronicles of Narnia and you could make them come out into a world with the exact same characters, but it's a weird science fiction, spaceships and robots world. And it'd be the exact same story. it just, I don't think it would be as visceral because it's not out like in that forest and in that other world kind of thing.
Right.
But you could replace all those things with different, put it in a different setting, and it's the exact same story. So it really comes down to the kind of story, I think, that you want to do and tell, unless you're only working on the visuals of it. But then it's a matter of, as a personal choice, I like working on the sci-fi stuff, but as a professional choice, I'll work on whatever the best story is, whatever setting it's on.
Right.
Whether it's,
in terms of in terms of fantasy, what would be your top number one movie for fantasy?
Probably Lord of the Rings.
Okay. Just see that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them. Things in that nature. I'm trying to think of some other good fantasy ones too. I mean, even the old oh God, what was it? I can't remember the name of it right now. It's the movie with the mechanical owl, Clash of the Titans.
All right.
Yeah, that was the original one and the new remake. Were both fantastic fantasy worlds. And what I think is an awesome fantasy world, and it incorporates a lot of stuff I like, is Time Bandits.
What is it called again?
Time Bandits.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Oh my God! Terry Gilliam from Monty Python directed it, and it's this kid finds a map, and it's a map to travel the universe through these little doors. And then he meets some thieves. That there's the creator of the map, God, is trying to get the map back from these thieves that stole it from his workshop. And it's a really funny movie, but they're going through all these fantasy worlds, some sci-fi, some that are basically in hell, some that are in different eras of time. And it's a fantastic, fun, almost family sci-fi movie, but just enough twisted and weird to make it kooky and fun.
Yeah, to speak to that, kooky and fun, something like, a writer like Philip K. Dick, who wrote, the book that became Blade Runner, and what's the other one? Minority Report, Tom Cruise. What do you think of his mind? Because I really feel like he was on another level to be able to write some of this stuff that now we're sort of seeing being implemented in society.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was obviously a very smart person, so he knew what he was writing about, tech-wise too. So he had that in his mind. So it wasn't just something he was making stuff abstractly up. He had this knowledge. So whatever he was writing about is stuff that could come true, and it kind of is coming true. I remember when I'd seen Blade Runner and loved it. At the time when I was given the book, I didn't know Blade Runner had been adapted from a book.
Okay.
This was after I'd seen the movie a million times, and I'm reading the book, and it's different enough where I was like, I went back to my family, this book was awesome, but he totally ripped off Blade Runner. Because it's Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, and it's definitely different enough to be you could see how it'd be inspired from it, but it was so funny that I was like, oh my God, I had no idea that's what the adaptation came from.
Yeah,
but I mean, the ideas of the book are so cool as well. It's just his mind and where he was able to go with it, and the things he came up with are amazing.
Yeah, I read a couple of his books. I think Valis is one of them. Then the one they made into animated, kind of there was a really weird filter. A Scanner Darkly. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
That's definitely one of my top sci-fi movies. That's really out there. And I read the book, and what's interesting about the book is it's basically the same as the movie. Word for word, a lot of it is just taken directly out of the book, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Let me respond to that thing that went up on screen a second ago about the humanity surviving 3 days. It's not that humanity can only survive 3 days. The idea is that after all power, water, all your necessities are cut off, and you're left alone with no communication, say in a city, after 3 days is the point where it starts to break down tremendously, and you start fighting for food and resources. And at 7 days is when you're killing people for those resources. That's what the idea was. It wasn't, and there's been multiple papers written on that are out there. If you search for it, you'll find them. And it's from reputable people. It's not just something made up internet thing.
Right.
But yeah, it's not that in 3 days humans are dead. I mean, that's not the idea. The idea, it's the other idea about the collapse of society.
So, like when it comes to creating these like futuristic worlds, for example, how much of the research process is actually like studying real life stuff, like versus more of the fantasy, like the fantastical?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm working on projects that are any project I work on, I do a lot of research on it. Some of it, if I'm just employed at a company and working on a project, I'll still do research outside of my normal working hours, just because it's like I like doing it, and I want to make the project better. And I'll delve into this stuff. I'll fall down rabbit holes all the time, and just go for do an all nighter, like figuring out like, okay, well, why would this work? And like say on Firefly, it's like how did the engine work, and what would it look like, and why would it do this? And I figured out this whole thing of it like being based on the Daedalus program, and that it was essentially setting off nuclear blasts behind it to propel itself forward, and that's kind of how the Firefly effect worked. And it was more involved than that. It's been a while, so I can't remember exactly what the whole thing I did. But anyway, they incorporated that into the lore of the story, and that inspired my visual effects work on it, because I like having something to draw from, whether it's something, even if I make it up in my head and they say, oh, that's bullshit, I don't like it, I'll still do it in my head and just go, okay, in my mind, this is what's happening. So that's how I draw from stuff to come up with cool, visceral images to carry things forward and carry projects hopefully to the next level and into people's minds. Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So like, what are your typical tools of the trades when it comes to creating these visual effects?
Man, the tools of the trade, they are all over the place. So like I started using a program called Lightwave, and it's still around. It's still a great program. And then as I've gone to other places, like when I was working at ILM, it was all proprietary software. And at Alchemy X, it was proprietary software and Houdini and Maya. And then it's like now I'm working on a project. I'm doing part of it in Lightwave and part of it in Maya. And compositing wise, I'm using After Effects, which is the tool I love, and then Nuke as well, but I just don't know Nuke as much. But then AI wise, I'm using Comfy UI, which is kind of like the ubiquitous program to be able to do any hardcore open source stable diffusion model work with. I use a program called Comfy UI. It's pretty complex. It's all node based, and you're drawing flowcharts and all this stuff, and it's a whole thing of itself. So, I mean, it's one of those things, you can't learn everything. You can't learn every piece of software. And then, especially when you're going to these production facilities, like if you're going to Sony or Sony or ILM or any of these big places like Weta or any of these big places, they're all using proprietary software anyway. So you just have to pick something and learn on it, and then you can go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with a lot of this software, because at one point I wanted to be like a game artist or a game developer, in that whole thing. And, you have like all of that 3D software.
Yeah,
like how much does a game?
I worked at EA for a little while, or a couple of years, and used Unreal Engine and all the other tools too, and fed all that stuff into Unreal Engine to develop a game.
Oh, wow.
Do
you mind sharing what game you worked on? Was it like Dead Space?
I worked on a couple games there. I worked on Medal of Honor Airborne, and there was another one I helped on Tiberium Wars. But the main project I was on was called Tiberium, and it got canceled, and they laid everyone off after they spent like $80 million on it. So I mean, it was insane. It was just like they spent so much money on this, and it was a cool, fun game. And I think they got to where it was they had to spend like the next $80 million, and it could have been more than that. I mean, I know they spent at least 80, but it could have been more than that. But when they got to the point where they had to spend the next $80 million, I think they went, oh, there's too many other games out that are like this. We need to kill it now, and because we don't think it'll make its money back, which was unfortunate, because it was a great team and incredibly talented people on this team from all different aspects of game world, film world. All over the place doing this really cool game, and then when they canceled it, they laid everyone off.
Yeah.
How does the game industry compare to the film industry, just from your experience?
It's the same and different. The position I was in, I didn't like what I was doing. I was a cinematics director and CG soup on this game, but it was my issue with it was that I would do something, and then by the time I'd finish it to show to the executive producers, they would have changed their idea, so I have to start over again. But that would go on like 10 times in a row. So I could have been sitting there for 6 months surfing the internet, and no one would have known the difference. That was a big frustration for me because I wasn't able to really feel like I was being creative or even get feedback on the work because they never showed it to anyone. Because they would change it and then we'd kill it and I'd be like, all right, I guess I'll start over and do the next thing. Where I was getting paid really well to do it. It was a very frustrating process not to be, as an artist, not to be able to show what you're doing and have any result out of it. And there's people who are going to say, dude, you were making a good amount of money there. So what are you complaining about? It's just, it's not, it's hard. It's like kind of soul sucking to an extent when you're in that situation. And I am sure most games are not like that. Just this situation just happened to be like that.
Right.
So like in terms of the gaming industry, what games do you feel like really have an outstanding art direction that you've actually been able to draw from?
Yeah, like Starfield is pretty cool. It's got its issues, but it's a very cool universe. Like it's the world they built for it is really cool. And it's fun. It's fun to play. I mean, my favorite game is Grand Theft Auto. I mean, I love it. I love San Andreas, man.
San Andreas, man. Yeah. Doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, I mean, I have an old PlayStation that I haven't touched in a decade at this point, or something like probably since I played San Andreas. But I mean, I'm gonna go buy the new one when the new PS5, I guess, when it comes out, because I want to play the new San Andreas game, or not the Grand Theft Auto game. But I mean, they're gonna get me on that because it's not gonna come out on PC for a year after they release it on that, and I want to play the damn thing. But it's funny, I'm not a big gamer though. It's like if I find a game I really like, I will fall into it and be all into it for like a month, and then I finish it and I walk away from it because I have to, because I can't. I think I'd be bad if I got into one of those games that keep going on forever, because I'd spend way too much time in it.
That's kind of like people who like, what do they call that? MMOs, World Warcraft. They talk about people, being in their basement on there for 12 hours a day, not eating. It sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, I'll do that when I'm working on a project and creating things, not just playing a game.
So like you kind of mentioned, utilizing AI tools to do some of your work. How has AI revitalized or revolutionized your workflow?
It's totally changed my workflow 100%. AI is coming, and it's not coming, it's already here. So when people get worried about AI stuff happening in the future, it's like, it's not the future. Okay. There's already this wave that's come up and it's crashing and it's breaking, like in the end of the abyss, where there's a huge wave is over the shoreline and you're seeing the white over the top of it and it's over your head and you're just under that thing right here. And it's already here and it's just going to crash down in the next 2 years. It is going to not only change the entertainment industry, the visual effects industry is going to be 100% different. It already is. It's going to change the entire world in terms of people who work at grocery stores to gas station attendants to everything is going to change. And people need to be more aware of it, because you can't say you're going to be surprised because it's already here and everyone's seeing it coming. So people need to look at it and it's here. It is not going to go away. No matter how many people protest about it, it's already here.
Right. Because look at something like Uber. They want to make all the cars self-driving and get rid of all the human employees. So it's like someone who's doing Uber on a side or their main hustle. What are they going to do once it's all autonomous vehicles?
That was Uber's idea from the very beginning, and the inception of the company was to ultimately have driverless cars. So when they formed that company, the idea was to have drivers for a while, then eventually go to all self-driving cars. That's their business plan, and that was their business plan. And it's a great business plan. It's just I hate to say it, it's unfortunate that people are going to lose their jobs over it, but that was their plan from the beginning, and it wasn't hidden. It's like it's one of those things. It's like, are you a jerk when you say that? because it was well known that was their ultimate business plan? Or do you, and the people driving for them know this? I mean, it's not a surprise. It's everyone who works there knows this. So how do you complain about something that's already known when you went to get a job there and you're employed by them and now you're upset you're going to get fired? Kind of an analogy to this would be like 15, 20 years ago at Disney Animation, they have all the traditional artists doing, writing, drawing, and doing all their stuff by hand. For a period of like 10 years, they tried to get all these original traditional drawing artists to switch over to computers and just use their tools. And they still had, they had the pens and tablets and all this stuff for them. So it wasn't like 100%, it wasn't like night and day difference. They still had all the same tools, but in a digital form. For like 10 to 15 years, a lot of them just refused to learn it. And after that time, they finally said, guys, we aren't making movies this way anymore. And it's unfortunate, but you guys got to go. We gave you a long time to learn how to do this.
Wow.
And it's very unfortunate, but that's just the way it is.
So it's like they saw the writing on the wall, but they didn't care. They just put their
they were told that was what's going to happen. They say, if you don't do this, you are not going to be here very long. Here's the tools. We will help you. And they did that for like 10 years and they still refuse to learn it. And so how do you get mad? Is that artist? How can you get mad?
Exactly.
I think what's so amazing about AI to me is I watched some recent like AI generated footage. You can't tell it apart from reality. Whereas like before, you had to go in these 3D programs and spend a ton of effort to create something that kind of looks real, but you can still tell it's not. But now you just prompt the AI and it produces something.
Yeah, there's stuff like shots that I look at that I did 20 years ago when I first got into the industry that I spent weeks working on. And I can do it in like 15 minutes with AI now. And it's like, oh my God. I learned, don't get me wrong. I learned so much and got to where I am by being able to do that. Being able to have the knowledge and the learning how to do all that from scratch to be able to do the stuff I do now. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be able to do the stuff I do now. Because, they say, a lot of people will say, oh, well, all these young people are coming in and they're just going to take over and they're just going to sit on their couch and write all these prompts and come up with these brilliant movies and do this. And it's like, no, they're not. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the background. They don't have the storytelling. Haven't built up their storytelling technique enough to do that yet, because it's all about storytelling. Visual effects is all about storytelling. You have to be able to tell a good story, and that's something that has to be learned over time. Not saying people can't learn that in a couple of years and do great things like some of these brilliant directors that come out of the blue and you're 25 years old and doing things like Justin Lin or something like that. I mean, he's doing incredible stuff and he was young when he started. But just to say that everyone's going to be able to do that is not true and not going to happen. Like when VHS camcorder, high-end camcorders came out, they were saying, oh, everyone's going to make movies. We're going to be destroyed. This was before my time, really. But still, they're saying, everyone's going to be able to do it. And you can't do this anymore. And it's like, no, it didn't. No one knows how to make movies and has the background to make movies. And it comes down to the storytelling, because no one knows how to make a story, and they have to learn how to make a story before they can become a storyteller.
And then look at something like music. Like the music industry is definitely going to be kind of interrupted or changed because of AI.
Yeah. Oh my God. Especially in the music industry. I'm a musician myself, and I played guitar for like 40 years, not to age me, but I played a long time, and play a lot of different instruments now. And I love making music and writing music and recording music. And I feel I want to say lucky that that's not my job, because that seems like it's just going to change so much. It's already changed, but it's going to change so much more, and it is changing so much more right now. Yeah. And there's a guy named Rick Beato who has a channel on YouTube, and he did a thing where he went into ChatGPT and had it create a character, a song, and then the music, and then he took it. I don't remember what program he took it in to do the music, but it was all AI stuff, and it came up with the concept of this person and this song and the lyrics, and he played it, and it is an awesome song. It sounds beautiful. She has like a cool backstory. The pictures it created of her are great. And he did this in like 15 minutes. Wow. And Jewel, the artist Jewel, was even posted about it and goes, wow, this is awesome. If this wasn't AI, I would hire her as my songwriter right now or sign her. It is so crazy to see that can happen now, and is happening.
I think it's ultimately going to cause like a huge mental shift on focusing like how to do something versus like now what you want to do, like more on the creative side versus the technical side. Like you're not going to spend as much time figuring out how to build this thing. You're just going to be focused more so on the story, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and I love that. Oh my God, I love that. Because you know, a lot of times it's just like rote stuff where you just have to just do this monotonous stuff over and over again, like rotoscoping a shot, like a person's in front of some trees and you need to put them somewhere else, and you have to go through frame by frame and cut them out and get every single piece of strand of hair and all the and everything, you know, that's moving around, and you have to get all this stuff perfectly matted out so you can put them somewhere else. And now you can do that with an AI program. Oh my God, that is just so unbelievably great. And what's kind of funny is there was an intermediary step to that on the way we are to where we are now. Whereas when I started in this industry, we used to have to do that ourselves. And then eventually got to the point where it was all being farmed out to different countries where they could do it really cheaply to these, you know, they have a bunch of talented guys, and a lot of it was in India where they were doing this. And you'd send your footage there, they'd rotoscope it and send it back to you. And now it's basically, they've been replaced with AI.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that already happened once. Now it's just happening again in a different way.
Just like in a stronger wave.
Yes, in a stronger wave and faster.
And faster. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's going to remove a lot of the tedium, and we're going to be able to get content out a lot quicker, you know, versus spending a lot of time and money on, you know, stuff that nobody really finds sexy. It's not like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, like the short film I'm working on right now, Fire Breaks. I did like a test for it that's called Fire Break over like 6 months ago, and then I finally went in to do the short story. And the stuff I'm coming out with that's generated through AI is just amazing. It looks real. I mean, it looks real. And it's a story of like a kid getting stuck at a campground where there's a forest fire breaks out, and his mom's trying to find him, and the fire trucks and firemen are trying to find him, and they save him at the end. Everyone's happy. So it's a little short story encompassing that. But just the shots I've come up with are just blowing my mind. They look so good. It's, you know, the style I want, the kind of like a lot of it where I want a handheld camera, I can tell it to do a handheld camera. Where I want it to be a nice crane shot, I can tell it to be a crane shot. And it's just amazing. I'm blown away. Every day I'm blown away by it. And because it changes every day. That's the crazy thing too. It's like, I try and keep up on the AI news. And it's like, there's two new 20-minute videos probably every day that come out that I need to watch. That's a lot of time to spend learning about all this stuff and to try and keep up on it. If I don't keep up on it for 2 weeks, I am so far out of the loop of any new stuff that's going on. It's amazing. It's honestly overwhelming.
Yeah.
It is completely overwhelming, the amount of stuff you have to learn and keep up on.
I guess that's the unfortunate side of it.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, I tell myself too, I'm like, okay, I've got to find a better way to do this, because I can't keep doing this where I'm watching so many YouTube videos about new tools that are coming out, because it's taking away from the time I need to spend doing other things, doing the part, as opposed to learning about it. And I've got to find a better way. And I mean, if anyone has any suggestions out there, a better way to keep up on the tech, like on a weekly basis instead of like a daily basis, where some trusted sources that you know are more succinct and don't ramble on, please let me know.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, you just got to kind of realize that you can't keep up. Like, you know, it's just easy to go down the plug-in rabbit hole where you're always looking for the new plugins and you're never making stuff. You kind of figure out, do I need this plugin or do I need to focus on if this plugin helps me do what I'm trying to accomplish? I think
right.
Yeah, but I see stuff like, you know, like one of the big problems right now in AI is character consistency. And, you know, over the past couple of weeks, there's been a bunch of tools that have come out that are able to do pretty good character consistency in most tools right now. And if I hadn't been paying attention for a week, I would have missed that, and I would have done a whole bunch of work here that I would have had to go back and redo because I didn't know about it.
Yeah,
that's where it comes in.
Fear of missing out.
Yeah, missing out and going, oh man, I missed. I now I have to go back and redo it because I can get those characters consistent. And you know, you get something done, and if you don't like this short film, I'm going to try and get it out in the next couple of weeks and get it to some film festivals. Because if I wait 6 months, it's going to not be worth watching because it's going to be, technology will surpass it. I mean, it will be worth watching because it's a cool story and it looks good. But I mean, stuff is changing so much. It's just great. It's just absolutely crazy. And I can see why people are frustrated because it's changing so fast and it's impossible to keep up.
So yeah, we're at the top of the hour, man. It was amazing having you on, man. Whenever you release your short story, hopefully we can get you back so you can tell us about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for having me on, guys. This is really fun.
For sure.
Before we get out of here, do you want to leave our audience with any closing thoughts and where can they find you at?
Yeah, closing thoughts are just, keep your eye on AI. It's here. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be here, and it's going to be dramatically changing the world and your life in the next couple of years. So pay attention. Even if you don't like it, pay attention. You can find me at emilesmith.com, E-M-I-L-E Smith.com. You can see all my work and contact me from there if you want. If you ever need to do any AI filmmaking or visual effects needs, feel free to shoot me an email. My email's on the site as well. emilesmith@gmail.com. And keep an eye out for a webisode series that's coming out called Mega Trump in the next few weeks. It's going to be fun and funny. It's Austin Powers meets Michael Bay.
All right.